If there's any client that I see on a regular basis or that comes into my office that I have a greater level of empathy or understanding for, it's people that come in here with herniated discs, either of their lower back, of their neck, or any of the areas of their spine. And the reason for that is because this is something that I've actually dealt with myself personally going back many, many years ago. And today I'm going to give my story of what led me to chiropractic and what led me to a better understanding of how to take better care of folks that have herniated discs in their spine. So my journey started, years ago. I was actually working in the concrete industry and manufacturing and working around heavy materials all the time and dragging, pulling, doing things like that. But not only that, I took on a big project at my house, and I decided I was going to build this beautiful koi pond. Well, my koi pond was the size of a swimming pool. Not only was it the size of a swimming pool, about 4 feet deep and about 20 feet long and 15 feet wide, but then I also had a 4-tiered 15-foot waterfall drop down into it. And to do this and to build it, I dug it all by hand. And not only that, but then I also had to move around 20 to 30 ton of rock to actually build up the walls and build the walls and the rock and everything. And it looked beautiful when it was done. But what didn't look beautiful as when it was finished was my body and my back, because it totally wrecked my back. I ended up herniating what found out was 2 herniated discs in my back. Now, this didn't happen just immediately whenever I was doing this project, but I was constantly dealing with stiffness. It was one day I was walking down a street, and all of a sudden it was dark, and I stepped off a curb that I didn't know was there. And when I did, and as I caught myself back, my back completely locked up, and then I started having nerve pain. And the nerve pain that was the sciatica that was going down my left side of my leg from my glute all the way down. And it was incredibly painful, and it hurt so bad. I was actually on a trip, and it was all I could do to get back home to the States. And on a plane, and couldn't move my suitcase, couldn't get comfortable in a car. It took about a couple weeks for me to finally get to a chiropractor. And I went to a chiropractor, and I'd actually gone to a traditional doctor. He'd ordered an MRI. They saw that we had this herniated disc. He recommended, he goes, we could probably do surgery on this, or I could refer you out for surgery. And I said, absolutely not. I was a young person, and I'm like, I don't want to do this. And I said to myself, and I said to him, I said, if these young athletes that go out and tear themselves up, like football players and baseball players, and I said, and they can get back into the game, maybe 2 or 3 months later, or maybe the next game. I said, why can't I do something like that for myself? And he didn't have an answer for me. So that's when I found, myself in a chiropractor's office going and doing a rehab in there. And it was in that office that I really got great relief and actually, started to recover and started to uncover what was causing a lot of my problems in my spine. And it was amazing. But, even with getting regular chiropractic, now this was general chiropractic care, doing traditional manipulation and using the activator method. And that helped quite a bit. Fast forward, and I kept having relapses of a lot of the same condition. And this happened for probably about a good 3 to 4 years. I would probably have a relapse every 3 to 4 months, and where things would just start to aggravate again. There was also once that it was aggravated after a car accident. Then there was another time that I'd fallen out of a tree while I was doing some hunting. And that re-aggravated all of my conditions again. So I kind of felt like I was getting better, and then I'd kind of have this major relapse and then start to progress forward. Now, fast forward, I decided after going to the chiropractor that I was going to become a chiropractor. So I ended up in Marietta, Georgia, going to Life University. And one of the first things you do is, as you go to school, is you start to, you get under care with another student. Well, with my back and as tinnitus as it had been, and I was kind of in a state of recovery, I didn't want anybody working on me. So I surely didn't want I didn't want to be a practice dummy, as I'm going to say, for allowing any student to work on me. So fortunately, one of the first techniques that we learned about or were starting to study was this upper cervical technique called the NUCA method. And I thought, that's a little interesting. It sounds really interesting. And some of the theories behind it were a little bit out there. And I thought, okay, I'm going to check this out. So I ended up going to this doctor who was actually our class advisor, who had an office in downtown Atlanta. I ended up going to his office and actually paying him to assess me and doing his careful analyzation, checking me out, seeing what was going on, taking specific x-rays, and then adjusting my neck, even though I was having herniated discs and had all my problems in my lower back. Now, after he did that, I was like, whoa, it blew my mind, because it was like a very light adjustment and very unique, but there was a couple different things that started to change for me. One, my lower back started to improve, and I started to see more longevity in terms of how that was improving. The other thing, I occasionally would pop and crack my own neck do my self-manipulation. I'd really stopped doing that, but I didn't feel the need that I needed to do that, throughout the day. The other thing was my jaw, which would typically lock open or shut, actually stopped doing that. I was like, whoa, it really, had a big impact that I thought, this is different. So that's what led me down the journey to actually understanding NUCA and upper cervical chiropractic. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about what happens whenever we have a herniated disc. Now, herniated discs can happen anywhere in the spine. They can happen anywhere, whether up in the cervical spine right through here, the mid-thoracic area, or the lumbar spine. I'm going to say the most prevalent is the lumbar spine. So right here on this model, we've got this little red dot right there, and that's indicative of what a herniation of a disc would look like. Now, right there, this one is between L4 and L3. And basically that gel-like disc material that is between each of the vertebrae that provides the cushioning. It's like the shock absorber for your whole spine. Because see, our spine has these three naturally occurring curves. Our lumbar curve, our mid-back, and then our cervical. Those are designed to have spring-like characteristics. Just like a spring is going to give, compress, the spine is being able to spring and come back. It's the discs that actually act like the shock absorbers, just like in your car. But over time, and when we have dysfunction in the spine, it's that material actually can leak out. No different than in your shock is going to lose fluid, and it's going to leak the oil or the air out of the shock. And then guess what? You don't have that rebound effect on those shock absorbers in your car anymore. The same thing happens with our body, and we get this breakdown. And as that occurs, then we start to see where these discs themselves start to impinge on these nerves and start to create bigger problems. As they do that, then they can create what we call neurological signs and symptoms. Typically, the first one would be sciatica, or a numbness or a tingling sensation in the glute, or a burning sensation, or anything running down further down into the leg. Now, if it were to happen into the mid-back or into the neck, we're going to have similar situations, but now they're going to be affecting other parts of the body. It could be affecting the shoulder area, the arm, having burning sensations down through there, numbness, tingling, any of those types of sensations. A lot of times when people think of they feel burning or tingling sensations, they think it's a circulatory issue, thinking it's their heart's not working, or maybe they need to shake it out, so they have to shake it to actually get that blood flow back. It's not a blood flow thing. When they shake it and move it, they're actually moving the nerves that's being impinged and creating a lot of those neurological signs. So with chiropractic and with the upper cervical approach, what we do is we focus on what's happening here to actually impact the entire spine. Upper cervical chiropractic, or the NUCA methodology, is working primarily with the upper cervical spine, actually working to get the spine in a proper position here and then resetting the whole spine. So I want to introduce myself. My name is Dr. Sweeney, and I've been practicing as a NUCA chiropractor here in Austin for over 20 years. And the Nuka method, N-U-C-C-A, is a very unique method and chiropractic technique. It's been around for about 70 years, and there's less than 300 people in the country that do what I do. So it's a highly specialized technique that utilizes detail-oriented x-rays, where we take very specific x-rays so we can have a better understanding of what's happening with the head and the neck, and how that main junction between the brain and the spinal cord are coming together, and how that may be affecting your whole posture control mechanisms. Because what we see is that when people go into a state of misalignment, and however that can happen, whether it's in their lower back, mid back, or neck, is your body is going to start to go through adaptive and compensatory mechanisms, meaning it's trying to hold itself upright, and as a result of that, we get our bodies distorted. So it can happen like head tilt one way or another, shoulders distorted, one shoulder higher than the other, twisting of the torso that's now going to affect the lower back, hips, one hip higher than the other, and creating a shorter, longer leg. If we see just one of those, that tells us that we've got problems in the spine. And then what we do is we come in very uniquely by doing a very detailed assessment, taking very precise x-rays of understanding three-dimensionally what's happening and how your body may be breaking down. So this is a technique that we've been doing and practicing, and we've worked and helped with lots and lots of cases, probably over hundreds of cases of different people with herniated discs in their lower back, in their mid back, and in their neck, and actually helping them get resolution. So if this sounds like you, and if you're dealing with any of these signs or symptoms, and you need some tips to try at home. So the first things that I'm going to always recommend for people with herniated discs is ice. You need to get that swelling down. That's the biggest thing. We need to start with icing at home, okay? That's a big thing that'll really help. So we're gonna ice for no more than 20 minutes. A lot of times people will come in here and say, oh doc, I ice for 20 or 40 minutes, or I put the ice pack on and I go to bed. Well, there's actually an effect that after about 20 minutes, that'll actually be counterproductive to your body and actually create more aggravation. So we don't want to do it any more than 20 minutes. Okay, so we're going to start with ice. The second thing that we're going to do is we're going to be doing some bridge exercises, meaning I'm going to lie on your back, and then you're going to bend your knees and bridge your whole spine up and keep your spine straight. What that's going to do is actually help bring your body from a position like this up to like this, and you're going to actually extend your body to actually help bring more mobility and help close those areas down a little bit. That'll definitely help. The other thing that I really like is using a thermarest pillow. I like this, or any form of an air back pillow. And the reason that we want to use air versus just a spongy foam is because it's got displacement. It's a hydraulic effect. It's going to put pressure on your spine. So we've got to think about our disc system as a hydraulic system. And a hydraulic system has fluid in it. And that's what your discs have. So the only thing that can displace fluid very well is air. So that's why I like that versus foam or anything that's firm. You know, they can help, but air is definitely going to be the superior thing. So air creates positive air pressure on the spine or on the back, and then it's going to provide that positive air pressure into that. The other thing is doing positive air pressure exercises specifically on a ball, and I have a series of those that work really well as well. So those are going to be my big things that we want to look at of doing to actually help facilitate, helping to improve and mitigating your signs and symptoms of any form of disc issues. Now lastly, if you've tried these things or tried some of these exercises, or maybe you're just at your wit's ends and you really need somebody else to help you, you know, we're here for you and we'd love to help. We're always an open door, so I'm glad to jump on a quick call and have a consultation and find out what's going on in your life and how we may be able to help that. So again, if that's something that you're interested in, you may contact our office, click down or follow below. The other thing, you just got to remember, you got to call us, we can't call you. So until we see you again, farewell, be well, and be grateful.